This is a leftover piece of a maple burl that I had just sitting around. It's pretty well dried. I'm going to use this to make a little like box with a finial and a little pedestal stand. So first thing I want to do is come in with a drill bit just to drill a spot to mount my pedestal onto. It's small, so it doesn't have to be too deep. So that should be deep enough for a pedestal for something this small. Alright, so I'm going to start this off with a small bowl gouge just to rough out the outside of this. Alright, so that's it for shaping the outside. So now all I want to do is get my pedestal blank mounted on so that I can get the tenon made for that and get this glued onto it. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is take my spindle blank and make it round and turn the tenon on one end. Okay, so now that I have my tenon, the next thing I want to do is get this mounted into a chuck. Alright, so now that I have this in my chuck, the next thing I need to do is I need to cut a tenon so that I can glue the body of this box into. So I have a set of calipers measured out. I'm just going to use a skew with a peeling cut. Give it a measure, but I still got a ways to go. Alright, so I'm gonna have to back the tailstock away now. Alright, so now all I have to do is apply a little bit of glue. I'm going to apply it around the whole face and a little bit on the inside. Put it in, give it a few twists around. Bring up my tailstock just to give some pressure for a little bit for the glue to dry. Alright, so now that the glue is dried, the next thing I want to do is just refine this shape a little bit now that I have it mounted the other way. I got the tailstock pulled up for this. Okay, so now that the shape is refined, I want to hollow out the inside and then I'll work on turning down the base. Alright, so I'm just going to use a Forester bit to pre-drill. I used a little bit of painter's tape to mark my depth on the drill bit so that I know where to stop. Alright, so that's it for pre-drilling it out. Now I just need to get it set up so that I can start hollowing it down. Alright, so now what I just need to do is get this hollowed out. So I'm just using a 1/4 inch bowl gouge for this. Alright, so that's it for hollowing out the inside. The last thing I need to do with this is to address a little bit of cleanup so that I could fit a lid to this, and then finish turning the base on it. And then I'll get on to making the lid and the finial for it. Alright, so to set this up so that I can fit a lid to it, I'm going to use a square scraper. I just want to give myself a little bit of a flat spot here and then square up the opening a little bit. Okay, so that should be it for fitting the top of it so that I could get a lid fitted to it. So we're going to work on cleaning up the base and getting that shape now. Alright, so the next step I'm going to do is work on the base of this. So I'm not going to make it a super tall base, so I'm probably going to only make it to about there. I'm just using my small bowl gouge for this. I'm going to switch up to my small detail spindle gouge to clean up around there. Okay, so I think that's about how I want this base to be shaped. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to come in with my parting tool. Okay, so that's good for now. Now I'm going to do some sanding to it. Alright, so now that I have it all sanded down, I'm just going to come in with a handsaw and cut it off. And I'll just use my rotary tool just to clean up that little bit of a nub. You can use a sharp chisel if you don't have a rotary tool. Alright, so to start the lid, I pre-drilled a hole for my finial to glue into. So this is going to be the bottom of the lid. So I want to flatten this out and then cut a tenon to fit inside the opening of the body. Okay, so now that it's flat, I mark these calipers to the size of the opening. We're going to go right there. We're going to cut outside of that pencil mark down to maybe like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so that's enough with the bowl gouge. Now I'm going to come in just with a little skew, just to square off at the pencil mark. Okay, and we will move the tailstock out of the way and grab the body and see how it fits. Yeah, I got to make it just a little bit smaller. There we go, nice snug fit, but not too tight. Now I'm just going to put on another chuck that's got a set of jaws that'll clamp around that, and we'll flip it over. Alright, so now that I have it flipped over, I just want to make a small flat spot there, and then I will start shaping the outside of this lid. So I took a measurement on the top of the box for the max diameter that I want for this. It's going to be about to there, so I'm going to have to cut a bunch off of this. And I kind of want to have an undercut that's going to angle back in towards the body, so say about like that should be good. Alright, so now I just have some sanding to do to it. Alright, so my last step is to make a finial for it. So this is a piece of spindle blank black walnut. So I'm going to start by making it round with a roughing gouge. Alright, so now that it's round, I'm just going to use a spindle gouge to turn the whole finial down. Alright, so I'm going to start with the tailstock up, and as I work my way from the tip down, I'll eventually move the tailstock out of the way. Okay, so that's about it for the shape. So now I need to get a measurement of the opening so that I can cut the tenon to glue into the top of the lid. Alright, so I got a set of calipers set to the opening of the lid so that I can cut the tenon for it. So I'm just using a parting tool for this. Stop it and take a measurement. It's got a tiny bit more to go. Okay, so that should work for that. Now it's just a matter of sanding it up. Alright, so now that it's all sanded down, the last thing I need to do is just part this off. The hole isn't that deep, so the tenon doesn't need to be that long. Alright, so there's the finial. So the next step is just to get this all glued up. Alright, so to glue it up, all I'm going to do is apply just a tiny bit of wood glue. And just spread it around with my finger a little bit. Just pop it in a hole, give it a little twist. Alright, and we'll just let that sit overnight to dry, and then it's just off to getting a finish put on it.